Sauvignon Blanc, Tom, is a wine that I think is a very important wine to be making in this country and to participate in the making of it for one simple reason, is that we are a nation of beer drinkers. It is our climate that dictates this. We are a warm climate, so we are a nation of beer drinkers. And so it's interesting that...
So are we, by the way.
Yeah.
So our audience will perfectly understand what you're talking about.
Okay, and they will also you will also then understand that when you come from beer drinking to wine, it's quite an intimidating situation. It's intimidating to get into the whole mystique of wine. And we find here in South Africa that the easiest wine to make your introduction to the world of wine is Sauvignon Blanc, because we know it is an aromatic variety. And so it is the first port of call for newly initiated wine lovers is Sauvignon Blanc. The marketing drive for Sauvignon Blanc, not only in this country, but sadly a lot of parts of the world, is that you need to drink it within the year of vintage. But there are certain areas in this country where Sauvignon Blanc is of a completely different style. It is not that what I call sweaty adolescent armpit, cat's pee, gooseberry flavors. It is not a wine that is just solely driven by its fruit and very little complexity. There are wines in the Sauvignon Blancs in the country where there is more complexity, more layers of structure and of not only just fruit. And we believe that the area that we are in the Himalayan Arder, is an area very suited to quality Sauvignon Blanc winemaking, not because necessarily of the fruit characteristics it produces, but more because of the structure and the complexity. We're also finding that as we develop Sauvignon Blanc in this area, it takes on what I'm now considering to be the signature characteristic of our Sauvignon Blanc and cool climate Sauvignon Blanc, and that is minerality. So when you smell this wine, the first thing that you realize is that this is not a fruit bomb. It is not just about fruit and grassy gooseberries and asparagus and green fig. It is almost your first impression when you smell this wine is that it is almost like you're popping a little river pebble in your mouth and you're sucking on that minerality. And this is the first thing that you pick up when you smell this wine, is a minerality, there's a chalkiness, there's almost a subdued fruit kind of character, but as the wine opens and evolves, so these other fruit characteristics come to the fore. And then when you taste it, there's a wonderful explosion of not only fruit, but a little bit of herbaceousness. But to me, the abiding and compelling characteristic of this wine is its beautiful texture, its beautiful structure. And when you swallow the wine, we often think that a wine has a long finish because we just keep tasting fruit. But in fact, when you think about it, the structure isn't there. The structure falls away quite quickly. And for me, a well-textured wine has not only fruit that lingers, but also a structure and a texture. And this wine does it beautifully.
What is aromas that you pick up in this wine?
Tom, all the vintages have a decided individuality about them, and this should be, because every year we are dealt a different climatic hand. And so, it's either a hotter year or a cooler year, and so the vines will respond to each year differently. But I think the terroir is able to at least boil down the essence of this wine to a consistency that goes in year on year without making it boring. To me, as I said before, it always has this minerality. Then quite often we have pick up, almost incredibly, we pick up sort of salty aspects to the wine. Saltiness, some of the vegetation in our area, the fynbos. When the fynbos, which is the Afrikaans term for fine vegetation, an adaptation by the vegetation to small, thin leaves for the wind that is prevalent in our area. When that's in flower, it has a particular aroma to it as well, and so you're almost picking up that. But there's enough of the traditional Sauvignon Blanc characteristics in the wine that to make it recognizably Sauvignon Blanc. But what I love most about this wine is that it does go beyond its vintage. You know, so often we think that the vintage on the bottle is a sell-by date. This is not necessarily the case. There are certainly Sauvignon Blancs in the world that can age, and for me, this particular vintage is ready. It has not yet hit optimum. There's still a lot of development to go into this wine and to come from this wine, and so I expect this particular vintage to still be going on the up in 2 years to come.
Okay, so in general, we can say that you're not following that trend of wines that must be drunk young, that is made to be drunk like within a year or so. No, your wines are much more stable, they develop and are pleasant, are great for a couple of years.
Absolutely. Because of the cool climate area, so our chemical analysis of the wine is very positive. We have low pHs, fairly high acidities, and all this augurs very well for good aging. And the other critical thing is because of where we are, the grapes hang long on the vine. So instead of 110 days of hanging on the vine, we may be up to 140, 145 days. And so the grape develops on the vine in a more steady, even way, which all goes well in the package of winemaking. Of course, it's how you make the wine as well. But that's very good for aging the wine, and we believe that these wines can age very, very well.